people go to? Where did Paul go to on his mission? He went to cities throughout the Eastern Roman Empire, on Asia Minor. He began and he concentrated where there were Jewish communities. And he went and he preached in the synagogues. And in those synagogues he meets an enormous number of people called God-fearers. A God-fearer was not a Jew, but a God-fearer was someone like Cornelius who had renounced the gods of the Roman Empire, accepted that there is one creator and one God on heaven and earth. They were going to listen to his word in the Torah, for which they had the Septuagint translation to hear it in Greek, which is what all of Paul's teachings based on the Bible are actually from the Greek Septuagint. And these are the very first converts to Christianity because they see it as a way of being grafted in without having to eat kosher food, without having to go through circumcision. This is where Paul begins. He also goes to the Gentiles, but every town he comes to, the first place he goes is the synagogue. Just imagine that most of those cities, the Jews were a small minority, maybe 10% of the population at the very most. And the early apostles are coming to cities where this is people's culture. You want to preach the gospel to them? So I know there's plenty of divinity students here. Just imagine the task. Today you are preaching to converted people. You are preaching to people who you help save them. But it's individuals. Just imagine going out into a world where Caesar is God. Caesar rules the world. Where the Romans see themselves as a master race, as the real gods on earth, because nothing else can touch them. And you're going into this environment where they're worshipping their gods and their emperor and everything else, and you try to talk to them about salvation and about one true God. That is the enormity of the tasks of the early apostles. It's something that you can't even get your heads around. But I often do this on tours when we have the city of Bet She'an was the capital of the Decapolis. Massive Greco-Roman city that's a pile of ruins, but it's very well preserved ruins. And I bring people over the tell where the bodies of Saul and his 3 sons were hung up by the Philistines. And some tours I have like 10 pastors in my group. And I say, right, you ready to go and preach? How about this city? 60,000 of them, and you just come out of a village in Galilee with 40 people. Go and convert them. How much of fire and brimstone you've got in you, it is not an easy task. Reasonable statement?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, 30 years ago.
So anyway, that's what I like to think about the theatre. You're in the epitome of Roman culture. Now the Greek theatre, what was the Greek theatre? Tragedies, romances, histories, intellectual stimulation. What was the Roman theatre?
Murder.
Physical.
Soap opera.
Oh.
Pulp fiction. The Roman theatre was take someone who's fallen from grace and mock them in pantomime. There were 2 formats of the Roman theatre, pantomime and mime. Mime is mimicking somebody who's, they would stand up, they would dress someone like a typical Christian, who, with a staff and go to try and preach to people, and they would all laugh at him because he's trying to tell them this stupid, idiotic idea that there's only one God, that he had a son, etc., etc. And they know this is a lot of nonsense. There's really 347 gods. I mean, everybody knows that there's a God of your left toenail, a separate God of your right toenail. I mean, this is what we know. Look at this idiot trying to teach us something else. This is the mimicry that they were doing in the theatre. That's what Roman theatre was about. It was pulp fiction to the masses. It was not intellectual. The Romans were never intellectuals. There's no great Roman philosophers. They're all Greek, and the Romans adopted them. But then they changed what the Greeks were doing. They cast aside their appreciation for nature and fellow man, and the Romans became the biggest barbarians, I think, in the history of Western civilization. Because they're the only civilization, as it was called, civilization, in Western history, where they took human beings and they butchered them in an arena and made it into a sport that people would go to and cheer. And nobody has ever done that. This is what the early church was up against. And it all begins here with a God-fearer whose name is Cornelius. Ready? Let's move on.